Before there were roses, love songs, and awkward first dates, ancient humans were already dealing with the same glorious mess of feelings. Who do you trust? Who do you want close? Who makes your heart race, and who just makes you want to leave the cave and never come back? Love is not a new invention. It is one of the oldest things humans have ever felt. But ancient people did not always think about love the way we do now. For them, love was not just a dreamy feeling with soft music in the background. It was tied to survival, family, duty, land, gods, and sometimes a very practical question. Who is going to help gather food and keep the kids alive? Still, that does not mean ancient humans were cold or boring. Not at all. They laughed, flirted, mourned, wrote poems, made gifts, and probably had just as many confusing feelings as we do. The only difference is that they did all of it without text messages, which may have made things either simpler or much, much worse. One of the oldest clues we have about human love comes from ancient art. Long before writing, people carved figures, painted bodies, and buried loved ones with care. Some of these old figures seem to celebrate fertility, pregnancy, and the power of creating life. That tells us something important. Ancient humans saw love not just as romance, but as a force tied to birth, family, and the continuation of the group. Small hunter-gatherer communities, love likely looked very practical in some ways. People needed partners they could rely on. They needed cooperation. They needed trust. Strong bond could mean better food, safer children, and less chance of being abandoned when the weather turned terrible. So love was not only about butterflies. It was also about teamwork. Very romantic kind of teamwork, but still teamwork. And yet, even in these early times, affection was probably deeply personal. You can guess that people formed strong pair bonds, cared for their children, and grieved when someone died. That kind of care is visible in ancient burials where bodies were arranged gently, with tools, beads, or other offerings. It suggests that ancient humans were not just surviving, were remembering, honoring, and feeling. Then came the first cities, and love got complicated. Once people began living in large settlements, love became mixed with property, family lines, and social rules. Many early civilizations, marriages were not mainly about personal romance. They were often about alliances. Families arranged them. Communities watched them. Some places, you married to protect land, wealth, or status. Love might show up later, or not at all. That is a pretty big emotional gamble. In ancient Mesopotamia, one of the earliest places with writing, people wrote about love in poems, songs, and myths, or hymns to goddesses linked to desire and fertility. Like Inanna and Ishtar, these stories show that love and attraction were not embarrassing side topics. They were powerful, sacred, and sometimes dangerous. A lover could be a blessing. A lover could also be a disaster with excellent hair. Ancient Egyptians also had a deep sense of love, but it was often expressed with balance and devotion. Poetry described longing, beauty, and closeness in ways that still feel surprisingly modern. Some love poems speak with tenderness and excitement. Others sound like the speaker is completely stunned by attraction. Egypt also linked love to the gods, especially in ideas about harmony, family, and renewal. Even the afterlife included the hope of being reunited with loved ones. That is a pretty powerful sign that love mattered beyond the present moment. In ancient India, love became both emotional and spiritual. Texts and poems explored desire, devotion, and the many forms of human attachment. Some traditions saw love as a joyful part of life. Others warned that desire could distract the mind. But even then, love was not dismissed. It was studied, celebrated, and feared because it was so strong. It could lift a person up. It could also make a person act like a complete fool. Ancient writers understood that extremely well. In ancient China, love was often seen through the lens of family duty and social order. That does not mean it lacked feeling. Poetry from early Chinese traditions can be very tender. It talks about longing, separation, and the ache of missing someone. Confucian ideas placed great value on proper relationships, respect, and harmony. Love had to fit inside the family and the community. Beneath those rules, the emotional core was still there. People wanted closeness, loyalty, and a sense of being known. Greeks and Romans took love and made it a giant philosophical and dramatic project. They did not just ask, "Who do I love?" They asked, "What kind of love is this?" It was desire, friendship, devotion, and the kind that made you write poetry and stare at the sea like a tragic hero. Ancient humans absolutely had main character energy. One important thing to remember is that love in ancient times was not always one thing. It could mean romance, family loyalty, friendship, divine devotion, or duty to your ancestors. A mother's love, a friend's loyalty, a husband's responsibility, a goddess's favor, and a warrior's bond with his companions could all be described as forms of love. That makes ancient love feel broader than our modern dating app version. It was less about finding the one and more about understanding where you belonged in a web of people. Religion also gave love extra weight. Many ancient cultures believed that the emotions people felt were connected to the gods or the cosmic order. Love could be a gift from heaven, could also be a test. In some myths, divine love is generous and healing. In others, it is chaotic and destructive. This tension shows up again and again. Ancient humans seem to know that love is both comforting and dangerous. It can create homes, can also burn them down. And then there is the question of choice. Ancient humans marry for love. Sometimes, yes. More often, not at first. But that does not mean love was absent. It may have grown inside marriages that began for practical reasons. It may have appeared in letters, songs, and private moments we will never recover. We often imagine ancient people as if they were emotionally distant statues. They were not. They wanted to be wanted. They wanted tenderness. They wanted someone to bring them water when they were sick, not roll their eyes when they got dramatic. Archaeology and ancient writing both suggest that affection was deeply human and deeply old. Objects buried with people can show care. Poems can show longing. Myths can show the fears and hopes people carried about relationships. Even when social rules were strict, feelings still leaked through. They always do. Humans are very bad at being emotionally simple. So what did ancient humans think about love? They thought it was powerful. They thought it was useful. They thought it was sacred. They thought it could make families, strengthen communities, and connect people to the divine. They also thought it could cause chaos, pain, envy, and terrible decisions. In other words, they got it exactly right.